And we worked it together, and we talked to this kid. And we were able to get him the help he needed that night, because he was planning on killing himself. He was intoxicated, and he had a backpack on with 100 pounds of weights in it. He was serious. He was serious. These are things, while I never heard from that kid, I don't need to hear from him. I know that that night, we got him the help he needed. These are the things, and this is why I do what I do, is to help people. I know it's not perfect. Our profession is not perfect. There's improvements that need to be made. And we're working on all that. We're working on all that. But I guess for you, moving forward, just think about who you are. Be you. Be professional, but be you. How about this? What's it take to be a leader? Anybody want to throw out anything? What's it take to be a leader? What do you think a leader is? You think you're born to be a leader? Anybody? Yeah.
You kind of talked about this in your presentation, but being able to listen to others and take feedback from others is a big part of it.
Yes, it's a huge part of it. I think leadership encompasses so many different things, but I think listening to others, it's like I shouldn't have to do all the talking. I want to hear from my people. I want to hear from my dispatchers. I want to hear from my officers. I want to hear from the canine officers. I take their advice. I listen to their ideas. You know, I'm not necessarily out there. I'm not working the road anymore. I'm not necessarily right out there in the nitty-gritty anymore. So I need to listen to them. You know, it's easy to forget where you came from, and I think that's the thing that officers, sergeants, lieutenants, dispatchers, when they see somebody in a high leadership role, an administrative role, they're going to think, she forgot where she came from. And I don't want that to happen. I spend a lot of time, more time at work than I should, but I am in charge of patrol. And I do spend some evenings where I make sure I hold over for the night shift. And I sit down and talk to the night shift officers because I think there's value in that. But the other side is, I also have heard that they never saw the administration prior to me coming in and being there and sitting there with them. Now, I may not spend hours and hours, but even, I think it was last Monday, I was in there late, sat down with the night shift, sat down with them, and one of the things I said was, what's going on? Are there any rumors I can dispel or confirm? Have you ever worked in a workplace or even a friend group that you might have where the rumors just run rampant? And most of them aren't even true, or it's half true, right? How frustrating is that? Pretty frustrating. So I did. Those are things that I try to do. I try to sit down with them, and if you can imagine a police department, fire department, any organization, you're going to have people who like to start rumors or just gossip, and then it gets out of control. It's kind of like the telephone game. Somebody says something, and then it turns into something else. So this is something I do quite a bit. I'll sit down with the officer. Sometimes I just talk to them. I just listen to them, see what's going on. It actually helps out. I'm not saying it cures everything and fixes everything, because you're still going to have it. But that's one of the things, listening. Anybody else? What else does it take to be a leader? I will say I don't think you're born to be a leader. I think it's something you can develop. Yeah.
Appreciating the people around you and acknowledging their talents and strengths and what they bring to the team.
Excellent. Yes. I think that's the other thing I value so much, is because I know I'm not a canine officer. I've never been a canine officer. But and I will say guys because they're all men in my department that are canine officers. But I value their expertise, and I'm going to ask them the questions. You know, there's a lot of case law there, but I also know that they need to be comfortable with what I might be asking them to do. So we sit down and we have conversations. It's the same with SRT. I've never been on an SRT team, SWAT team. I've never done that. They're the experts in my eyes. They're the experts. So I ask them. They're the ones I go to for advice, okay? Yeah. We have instructors for so many different things. You know, firearms, defensive tactics, EVOC, which is Emergency Vehicle Operations course. So we have instructors who, we talk about pursuits, felony type stops, things like that, who instruct us. So I go to them if I have a question, or I want advice, or I have an officer that just got into a pursuit. There's things I have to do for that. So I have to put together a group, a pursuit review, and we sit down and we'll have those conversations. And I value the people on that board, and I value especially my EVOC instructor, because he has that specialized training. Anybody else? What's it take to be a leader? Anything? Sorry, I guess I probably need to hurry through this, right? So I also want to say, I don't think you need to have, in my position, rank or some special title to be a leader. My patrol officers can be leaders. It's kind of about, you have to take on that leadership role. You have to be the standout. You have to be the one that's going to help direct people, or maybe step up and help a new officer who's just still learning, may have some questions. There's so many different things that a leader encompasses. You don't have to have the special title to be a leader. So if you come into if you're a leader, if you're a boss and you're coming into a new company, or say a new shift or group or team that you're going to be managing, what would you say to them? Anybody want to be brave enough to say what you would say, who you are, what you're about? Those are things that people are going to ask. They're going to be wondering. They may not always ask all the questions, but they're going to be sitting there wondering who you are. What are you going to do? What are you going to change? What are you about? Do you know what you're getting yourself into? Right? Okay. So this is me. These are my values. And I did this recently through my class that I'm taking. And there were, 100 values or more that I had to whittle down to like 5 and then 3. And these were the ones that mean the most to me and that speak to who I am. Empathy, commitment and dedication. I added dedication. Trustworthiness, and then I also added the servant leadership, because I am all about the people. I'm all about the people in my organization, because I want to make sure they do the right thing and that they are happy, because then they're going to do right by all of you. Okay? If they know what I stand for and they jump on board with that and they follow me, it all aligns up and it all trickles out. If I have unhappy people, low morale, disgruntled employees, what's that going to do for you when you need help? Hopefully it doesn't trickle out to you. But that's the same for any organization. There's always disgruntled employees. There's people who get very upset because they feel maybe they were wronged by their supervisor. I guess you can call it like a psychological contract. It's nothing in writing, but it's kind of how you treat each other, right? It's kind of that unspoken rule of respect between employee and employer. And when people feel that you've breached that contract, that can lead them into different areas, that can lead to a downward spiral. Some will cope and move on, and others will not. So I think that's why it's also important, like I keep saying, listening to your people. If you think somebody's having a problem, call them in. This is what it's important to for my shift lieutenants. If they notice that somebody's activity and they're not doing what they used to do, it's like you need to call in your employee and find out what's going on. Maybe there's another problem. Maybe it's work-related, maybe it's personal. And maybe if we know about it, we can help them. Okay. Do any of you want to talk or know what your values are? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. And like I've said, to me, these are what's important. This isn't everything. There's a lot of things. The people, I think your values, your morals, your ethics, what you stand for are important. And letting your employees know that is important. Listening, learning, feedback. Don't be afraid to get feedback. It's scary, right? Because you don't want to be told what you've done wrong, what you need to improve on, because you want to be perfect, you want to do the right thing. I did this not too long ago. I actually did this for a project. And, well, it wasn't so much as a project as part of a discussion paper I had to do. But I had to ask at least 2 people for feedback. And I ended up and did 3 people. So, overachiever, that's what I got called. But anyway, the one counts, but it wasn't exactly a coworker. So I'm going to explain this. I asked one of my sergeants, I asked another patrol officer, and I asked my husband. I asked my husband because he's also a police officer. He lives with me. He knows what my work ethic is. He knows how much I work. And he's going to be the one that probably, sacrificing. I'm working, he's working. We have to figure out our schedules, right? So I asked him for feedback as well. And I do believe I got fairly honest feedback. I really do. Now, I did put these people on the spot. I could tell by one of them that I think he was a little uncomfortable, which was not my intention. That's the other thing. You sit down and you ask your coworkers for feedback, or you bring them in, give performance evaluations back. And that's another thing is I always ask, what can I do for you? What can I do better? What should I stop doing? I might be doing something that isn't helping. So, and those were some of the questions I had to ask was, what am I doing right? What do I need to stop doing? What should I improve on? So those were things that I got asked, or I asked those 3 people. And this is the last slide, and I put family up here because my family, without them, I probably wouldn't be here, because they have supported me through my journey, through wanting to succeed, move forward. It's been a journey for them as well. They're part of the process. And I haven't forgotten about them. I haven't talked a lot about my family, but they are part of the process as well. So my husband is a lieutenant for West Lafayette Police Department. I have a 15-year-old, well, she's almost 15, she'll be 15 this weekend, so please help me. And she's growing up, and that's scary. But yeah, they're a part of the process. They're a part of the journey and a part of the success. And they help keep me in line. Absolutely keep me in line. Keep me in check. How about questions, concerns, thoughts, anything? Yes?
So earlier on you mentioned micromanaging.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering, how do you avoid micromanaging while still holding your people accountable at the same time? How do you balance that?
Okay, so I don't feel I've ever been a micromanager, and I would even say, go ask those who I supervise. I have worked or been around people who micromanage. I think some people have a hard time figuring that out because it's very negative. Now, I'm not saying you may have a new employee or somebody who really needs that structure. There might be people or employees who really need that and like that. They like the constant tell me what to do. There are people like that. But also as a leader, as a supervisor, you want to get to know your people and figure out how they operate, what they need, how they are going to be successful. Most people don't handle the micromanaging well, and I think it's, if somebody ever came to you and said, you are a micromanager, or however they put it out to you, I would hope that you could be open to that criticism and take it and really think about it. It's just not typically a good, positive way to lead your people, or group, team, whatever it may be. I don't know if that really answered your question. It's a tough one, and I've known people who have been supervised by micromanagers, and it's been a very negative experience. And one person in particular I think of in their career who I know was a micromanager, it just never went well. People didn't want to follow that person. They didn't want to work with that person. They didn't want to be in that area. So it's something just to be mindful of. You know, I mean, obviously as a supervisor or leader, you need to know what people are doing because you're responsible. But it's, you know, trusting your people to do their job. And you should trust them until they give you a reason not to. That's key, trust. So, how about other questions? I know. It's almost to the end. Anybody? Nothing else? Yes?
How have you kind of handled the adversity you've experienced in your career based on like your youth and your position or your gender?
That is a perfect question, because I didn't touch on that. So, being promoted young or a young sergeant, it can be difficult. So, because you might end up supervising people who are more veteran, who have many years on, and that can be a difficult thing to do. But I think if you put, or how I did it was, you have to gain the respect. And I think if they see that you're working, you're putting forth, you have the knowledge, the experience, and you're learning, and you're trying to get better, there's a lot of respect there. And I've seen that with other people. Gender, in a male-dominated profession, it can be interesting. You still have to prove yourself, right? Engineering, is it still kind of, I mean, there's a lot of females in here, but it's still a male-dominated profession, right? Right? And you have to prove yourself. And sometimes it doesn't seem that it's fair, right? Yeah. But I think the world is changing, at least I'd like to think it is, and moving in a positive direction for females to be in more leadership positions. I think you just have to prove yourself. You have to do the work, put yourself out there, take those chances. And that's what I've done. I've done the work. I've asked to go to the trainings. I put myself out there. I've got in charge of a shift, obviously very young in my career, and I still had a lot to learn. I certainly didn't know everything. And even in whatever organization you go into, you have to go in knowing, like, I'm new. I need to be a sponge. And that's really what I was a sponge. Even as a sergeant, I'm still learning. I'm still learning from people. I try to learn from the lieutenant, who is my direct supervisor. I'm learning from even other officers. I'm learning from watching. I'm learning from watching other supervisors. And I had people that I could talk to. I will even say I had a mentor or two in the department to where I could ask advice. And that's the other key thing, is I think you need to find somebody, a mentor, a coach, kind of two different things, but to go and talk to and see what you can do to improve. And I did that on many occasions. So I think it served me well. Other questions? Thoughts, comments? No? Okay. Thank you very much.